William Steele was a black abolitionist who collected stories of black people who made it through to freedom through the Underground Railroad. It's a large collection of stories, and I'll be sharing a few of them with you. One of the first ones I'm going to share today is the story of Box Brown. It's a story many people have heard, and it's an interesting one because Box Brown didn't really suffer too much. Said that he really didn't have it too hard as a slave, but he was still a slave and he wanted to be a free man, and he lived in Virginia. He was able to get a box built. And the box was 2 feet by 8 inches deep, 2 feet wide, and 3 feet long. Just large enough for him to crawl in. He lined it with baize, the green felt that's usually on pool tables. And he had a little gimlet, which is a kind of screw he was able to use to give himself some air. And he had friends who, once he had gotten in the box, nailed it shut and tied it with some rope. And they addressed it to a shoemaker in Philadelphia. And they wrote, "This side up with care." Now, the hope was that people would read it, but you know how it is when you send a package, and this was a rather large package. So Box Brown spent many miles on his ride, upside down on his head. But he wasn't going to complain because he was on his way to freedom. It only took him 26 hours for that ride from Richmond, Virginia to Philadelphia. Now, the people in Philadelphia, the abolitionists who were to meet him, were a little concerned because they had gotten misinformation and had gone the day earlier to the station to pick him up. And so they were thinking about who can we get who won't attract any attention, and we need to just have the box picked up and brought here to the anti-slavery center. So they knew an Irish man named Dan who they said liked to drink a little bit of whiskey, and they paid him to pick up the box. He picked the box up, took it to the anti-slavery center. They took the box into a room, closed their doors. One of the men knocked on the top and said, "All right?" And Box Brown said, "Yes, I'm all right." They quickly took the nails out, removed the top, and Box Brown stood up and said, "Greetings, gentlemen." And so that was Box Brown's story. And he was so happy, he had a psalm that he had promised he'd say. "With expectation I have waited for the Lord, and he was attentive to me. And he heard my prayers, and brought me out of the pit of misery and the mire of dregs. And he set my feet upon a rock, and directed my steps to his freedom."